What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing our Detroit Lions 7-round 2025 NFL mock draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe below my face with my board. It is not predictive. These are just the players I love in the order that I love them. Feel free to go follow me over on X because I post all 22 clips to support my decisions there. And if you do want to support the show, feel free to use code HAILMARY when you sign up for UnderDog Fantasy. They send me $60. They give you up to 1,000 in bonus credits as well. So let's get into this. This is going to be a live mock draft. We're going to be referencing our lads a ton. And so we have 8 picks, and we're going to use every single one of them and enjoy it. Of course, Myles Garrett, ended up not being traded. So he ended up signing a $40 million a year extension, which is going to be kind of ludicrous, but sometimes players are just priceless. So we're going to see how we end up adjusting in this mock draft. And since we're right here seeing what's available, let's go and review what we need to be focusing on over our next 8 picks. So on the offensive side, we're going to have ads for days. I apologize, guys. But on the offensive side, quarterback-wise, we're chilling. I mean, some people have talked about trying to trade Hendon Hooker, try to get some value out of him. I'm not 100% sure if that's going to come to fruition. Running back-wise, Sonic, Knuckles is what it is. You guys have a great group. Sion Vaki as well. And then you look at the tight end group, you got Sam Laporta. Obviously, he had a little bit more of a down year compared to what we were hoping for, but I'm not going to write him off at all. I do think a backup tight end could be in the mix because it's a good tight end group, but we'll see if that ends up being the case. We look at offensive line here. You got Penei Sewell, arguably the best right tackle in the NFL, among them at least. Interior offensive line, Christian Mahogany did take a step up, and I honestly think that he is going to be the guard of the future. So I'm not thinking it's that big of a pressing issue, but I do wonder about like Graham Glasgow's future. Frank Ragnow obviously has like his own questions respectively. And then you got Taylor Decker here as well with Manu Giovanni, which I think because he was an international player, he doesn't count against the 53. You guys can feel free to coach me up there. But wide receiver wise, we are going to be also looking at one of those X-build receivers. You have your top 2 here in Williams and St. Brown that are incredible, great 1-2 punch, but I do think you can get a better player than like Tim Patrick for possession. Khalif Raymond, love him as a good returner, but I really do think wide receiver is a very underrated need for this team that not enough people talk about. On the defensive side, Hutchinson's coming back. Excited to see him back at full strength. Marcus Davenport just got brought back on a 1-year deal. Zadarius Smith ended up being traded for. Good depth there and good mentorship. Josh Paschal still hasn't lived up to the bill, which sucks, but it is what it is. You look at the defensive front, DJ Reader's a shell of what he used to be. He's more of a name than anything. Aleem McNeil, excellent player. Glad that he got that extension. And then Mekhi Wingo is in the wings. I guess pun intended, but he is somebody who has really good gap penetration ability, good depth there. But interior defensive line, Broderick Martin as well, I remember when people were talking about him, he was the on-sale version of Jordan Davis, which I think it's still the case, even with Jordan Davis being a disappointment. But regardless, we've got a good, defensive interior 2/3 and nose tackle 2/3. If we do see good enough value, I do think we should jump on it. Then you look again at the linebackers, Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone. I think you're doing well here. Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez. Like, you have good enough depth to where I feel very comfortable with your group of linebackers. Maybe you can end up sniping one later on day 3. Cornerback wise, Terry and Arnold, love him to death. I still think that the Eagles should have went Terry and Arnold, but you're debating between like my number 3 player and number 8. So they did the right thing. And, I still think Terry and Arnold's better in zone. I loved his nickel ability. Of course, then when you add in Cooper DeJean, ends up making sense for the Eagles. But I digress. I do think Quinn Mitchell would have been a little bit more on brand for you guys. And, it is what it is. I'm going to be in the minority when I talk about that. Where the hell did they put Rakestraw on the nickel. I'm like, where the hell's Ennis? Because I do think Ennis models his, is a little bit closer in play style to Quinn Mitchell, but Terry Arnold's just such a fun player. He's so smart. I do think he's going to have a much brighter future. He had some slip-ups, but he's going to be a true corner 1. It's just him getting used to a new defensive system, which I guess without Glenn might have to have a little bit of a longer growth curve. Then we have Brian Branch, stud. Kirby Joseph, known as an extremely dirty player. I'm not going to comment too much about it, but boundary corner as well is a key position to target that not a lot of people really talk about on a consistent basis. So we are going to be definitely doing that. There's a couple positions that we'll need to go into, but let's see what happens here at 28. And I mean, Gray Zabel is the quick and easy option here. I think he's such a good player. Josh Connerly could be brought in as a guard. Like Tyleik Williams, if you really want the long-term nose tackle, that could be a good choice. But honestly, one of the most underrated positions I was talking about is that boundary corner spot. And if you don't think Ennis Rakestraw Jr. is going to be that, and you want him in the pure nickel, it's you have a massive vacancy. Like, I do think that it is an issue that will probably need to be addressed, but I don't think you're going to spend another first after spending two top picks, and then I think also your third round pick went to Carlton Davis last year. I do think you're going to be like leaning a little bit away. I do think you guys are awkwardly overstacked at edge with still needing an edge rusher. That's what's really weird. Nick Scorton, to me, feels very on brand for what you guys have here in Davenport and Smith. Like, it's weird because, again, your edge rushing crew, you're not going to get a ton of snaps. That's the thing. You're not going to get a ton of snaps for whatever edge you're going to take. But a one-year deal doesn't mean really anything. It kind of is just making sure that if you do have great value falling to you here, you're not going to, like, overvalue it. But you could go Gray Zabel here. Again, you're going to need some interior offensive line value nonetheless. But I do worry that edge position, Zadarius is not going to be a prime edge 2. And I don't think Davenport really is either. I think that it's going to be more so mitigation in case Hutchinson needs more time to return. And so I'm going to invest in the longer term future here. I think Nick Scorton has a ton of prospect fatigue. And he's down to the 260 mark. He's at 285 listed. But he ended up losing some weight back to his original form. Feel free to take JT Tuimoloau here as well, but I personally feel like Nick Scorton for the value is really, really solid. And, again, you can debate that. It is what it is. But regardless, at number 60, we could have ended up getting JT, but I did not want to roll the dice on that. Again, I do think another boundary corner, if you don't bring back Carlton Davis, is going to be extremely important. Darian Porter would be an excellent addition, and honestly, having him, Rakestraw, as well as Terrian would make me feel very, very comfortable. On the interior of the offensive line, I do feel like there are some players here that I'd personally like Ursery. Playing him as a guard short term would be nice. Ozzy Trapilo, if you want to develop him as a left tackle, would be great. And then you pair him up with Christian Mahogany, who he also has experience with. This is just a weird team to draft for. Again, we talked about X receivers here, which I could have ended up going after one in round 1. It is possible to do that. And in retrospect, if I knew that JT Tuimoloau would have been here, going after maybe an Io Maynor or a Higgins and then a JT Tuimoloau would have been a better end result. But, it is what it is. You learn from your mistakes, and we have to continue pushing on. Like, Ben Morrison would be super duper fun. This is a team that's trying to armor up and not have that many issues to have to fill. So I do think actually going after a boundary corner here, again, when we look at it based on even if you do end up bringing back Carlton Davis or Ennis Rakestraw is going to be that pure boundary, you still need somebody to rotate in, like corners. You do rotate corners in consistently. It is a very important position, that corner 3/4 spot. And Ennis is still a little bit undersized. Darian Porter's a bit bigger. I feel like that's going to be the way that I take this pick because, again, you look at all these other selections. I know for a fact we're going to get some good value at those. So I am going to go after Darian Porter here. It's kind of been my thing going corner in round 2 for a lot of teams. But at pick number 101, a dark horse pick is that tight end 2 spot. Like, we look at it, and Zylstra, he's RFA. So you got Brock Wright and Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta, to me, I loved him after the catch. He was a solid route runner and an underrated blocker. I say the same things about Harold Fannin, and I think this is now, unfortunately, a very realistic range for him to be. Now, you could try to go after someone like Aeneas Peebles to be another backup defensive interior, CJ West, like Andrew Makuba to be a backup safety, but I feel like this is actually an underrated spot to go after Harold Fannin. Now, you guys are saying, Alex, offensive line needs to be addressed. 133, I feel very comfortable with the players that would end up being there, and so I'm going to hold off on that. I don't know why linebackers looked at as such a big issue. Personally, I don't see it. But you guys absolutely can feel free to tell me that I'm an idiot. It's okay. Plenty of people do. But I do think that we have a prime opportunity here to get Harold Fannin, who doesn't need to be a true tight end 1 in the squad and can bring his after the catch ability. And I mean, you look at even the contested catch rate, 55% is really solid when you are a primary target. So I'm going to go after Harold Fannin here, who ends up slipping to 101. At number 133, Good players have slipped. Like, that's just how the draft works. But I do think Johnny Cornelius was the player I was kind of hoping for here. Has that tackle versatility. He's just a really solid player. I've taken him in quite a few mock drafts, but I mean, honestly, at 133, I think the value is impeccable. You get him at that guard spot where I think he can start right away, but you don't need to start him. And so I like that value right there for Johnny Cornelius. At number 196, Dante Thornton Jr. can pair back up with Hendon Hooker, which I don't think they ever played together. He's a senior, so like -4 years. I mean, they could have crossed paths, like true freshman year for Dante Thornton. I'm trying to remember if they did, but regardless, I don't think they ever took any reps together. But regardless, I do think that, you know, we could end up going that route. Keandre Lambert-Smith's extremely underrated as well if we want to get, again, that X-build receiver. You know, Dante Thornton makes a lot of sense. This team likes a lot of speed. Chim DK is really solid. Ty Felton is really solid for this team. Like, a lot of good wide receivers that might be here on day 3. And I think we're going to take advantage of it. I haven't taken Dante Thornton too many times yet, so I feel very comfortable with it here at 196. 6'5", running a 4.3. Like, the dude's built to be an absolute savage. At number 227, we have 3 picks, so let's make the most of them. Looking at it, I do like the idea of reinforcing the defensive interior now. With Ty Robinson, I've taken him too many times at this point, especially in the most recent episode I just took him, so I do want to avoid that a little bit. I think at 246, I might rock Jared Harrison Hunt, who's a bit undersized at that sub 300 mark, but he's a freak athlete. Shout out to SMU. I'm an alumnus of SMU, so in case you're wondering where my allegiance lies. We could go Clay Webb. Again, there's some stuff with him off the field that people are really concerned about, and you know, I'm not a huge fan of off-field concerns. Cooper Mays is not a bad day 3 or like a round 7 target as well. Again, for a quick recap of what we've done, Darian Porter, Nick Scorton, Harold Fannin, Johnny Cornelius, Dante Thornton. So, good group of dudes. We could try to get another backup quarterback in here at this point as well. Like Brady Cook wouldn't be bad. Afton Chisholm wouldn't be a bad like backup to have. Because right now, you're not drafting starters, right? We're right now trying to reinforce the second level, if not the third. And we've already drafted a wide receiver. Could go after another one, though. Dan Skipper, legendary wide receiver, is also someone that you could try to, you know, get another upgrade in. Of course, we do have a Johnny Cornelius in case we do need that. We could go after another corner as well. I do think you end up picking one up in free agency, so keep that in mind as well. But looking at the style of players that you've drafted, I do think that Mac McWilliams does fit the bill. Jabbar Muhammad would be a really fun one, but I do like the idea of Mac McWilliams here. He's extremely smart. He's a top 50 player for me. So, like, I'm a big fan of him, obviously. I think he's worth the pick, though. I mean, no shit, he's worth the pick. I absolutely love this guy. Like, he's just not an incompletion guy. He's not going to be the guy at the catch point. But, like, zone IQ is ridiculous. He's really solid and feisty, and man, this is somebody that I would hitch my wagon to. At number 230, we still got the quarterbacks here. I do think that it would be in our best interest to go after them. And you got Seth Hennigan here, Max Brosmer, like Brady Cook, Curtis Rourke. Curtis Rourke, I do think that especially since he's been able to play so well in cold climates, like could be a really good quarterback 3, especially if you are wondering about the future of Hendon Hooker. So we're going to go after Curtis Rourke at 230. And then at 246, our final pick of this mock draft. Could take a swing on Clay Webb and just see if the personality, like the off-the-field issues, are done with, because there's a reason he didn't end up being at Georgia. And he was a 5-star recruit, if I'm not mistaken, or a 4-star, like legit superstar talent, but did some bad stuff. And so that's why he's here. You know what? We're going to say this environment is going to make him better. He has that center versatility. We're going to go and take him. So let's look at how this draft ended up playing out. We drafted Nick Scorton in the first, which again, in retrospect, like I wish I ended up going after an X receiver there, but because that's in retrospect because we ended up getting JT Tuimoloau to slip to number 60, but we got a boundary corner number 2 here. Like again, Darian Porter is so fluid. You guys are in a win now mode, obviously with these 1-year contracts. It kind of shows, and Darian Porter at his age, It scares some people until you're trying to just fill in the gap with someone who has a ton of talent, 4.3 speed. And so that's going to be someone that's extremely valuable, especially with the interception capabilities. Got Harold Finn to be a tight end 2 on our squad, really good after the catch threat. And also, I guess you could use him as an X underratedly. You could kick him out wide if you want to. Dante Thornton Jr., kind of very similar in terms of like the big receiver, but Dante Thornton brings the speed at 4.3. Johnny Cornelius is going to be the guard for us, but also that tackle versatility. You talk about Clay Webb being able to play some center as well. Mac McWilliams, someone who could be flexed around on the boundary or in the nickel. It's just a high IQ player that you could even put at safety if need be. And then we got our quarterback here in Curtis Rourke to play our QB3 spot. It's a very underrated position because like Hendon Hooker might be a sought-after target. So that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. Showing the love you always do. Love you. See you on the far side. Peace.